Hi everyone, Robert Aaron here. So I'm going to do a recap of the yesterday, if you will. I made these notes in a moving vehicle, and with Parkinson's that's hard, but we'll see how well we do here. I call it my empire of dirt, built by faith on a foundation of love. So for those who aren't aware yet, I lost my sobriety after a year and a half clean time, and this is a few months back, and it's been a journey since then to get back to it. So since losing my sobriety, I have basically lost my house. I have lost my stability that comes with that. And after losing that, kind of lost my way in some ways. So, they say jails, death, or institutions, or whatever, however that goes in life, and I kind of accepted my fate of jail or death. So that started my journey, and I decided to fight back because hopelessness should always be fought against. So from there, I went to a detox facility, and from there to a psych hospital to get my meds adjusted, and then from there to a facility in Lubbock. And I was hoping that would be, the end of that journey for me. Unfortunately, that was the beginning of a very bad day. In Lubbock, circumstances were such that 3 days later came that necessary day. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Sitting in the heat outside of rehab with everything I owned, including a large box of my more than 25 daily medications, no water, no concern for my health nor my safety shown by a single soul. After multiple hours in this heat, I finally had enough and accepted death as the final outcome. With my walking cane, I walked away from everything I owned, leaving behind my meds, my hope, and I thought, my faith. Miles of walking in the Texas August heat in a strange city, knowing nobody, and with a broken cell phone, I spoke out loud to my higher power, Hecate. My life should never come to this point, I said. In my head, I heard back, this moment in time is necessary. As I walked, legs aching, throat and mouth dry, stumbling as I walked, hundreds of cars and people passed by me without concern for me and without making eye contact with me. As I experienced more and more of society's lack of empathy, I feared I would never be the same again. After all I've done for everyone in my lifetime, and here I was, completely abandoned by my fellow man. It did not dawn on me in that moment, but I was still speaking with my higher power, as I felt this lonely isolation and desperation. As the second hotel turned me away, for I was sweaty and shaking, I realized they probably thought I was high, but I wasn't high. I had walked miles in this heat with Parkinson's. As the third hotel turned me away, I had a fleeting thought of after everything I do for everyone else. Then I remembered back to the day my dog Calvin was hit by a car, and I had that same thought when I cursed Hecate and stepped in front of a semi-truck on the highway in front of my little brother. The truck stopped in time, in the rain, on a curve. The lesson I took away from that experience was if you do anything expecting any return, then perhaps I'm doing it for the wrong reasons. A lesson that eventually led me to understanding and being able to love unconditionally. So I let go of that expectation of the universe fixing this day for me and walked on. 4 hours later, I found myself sitting in my hotel room eating pizza while on the phone with a priestess I had recently been introduced to in her time of need, and then Hecate spoke, but not to me directly this time. This priestess said she kept hearing a female voice on the phone call, but I heard nothing. Then she said something I almost blew off until I heard Hecate in my head say, pay attention, this is important. And so I asked her to repeat herself, and this is what the priestess said to me. You have passed a test. I knew and felt instantly that this test was a blessing, but I didn't know how just yet. I wasn't angry. I was at peace despite knowing that I faced prison next week now. I slept, and that same priestess called me the next morning to check on me, something that almost never happens in my life anymore. Then Hecate graced me with perspective. Last week, I announced that my organization will be teaming up with Appalachian Pagan Ministries to be a pagan inmate reintegration program for those who need us. I announced that I would begin now with seeing what was needed. Yesterday, I experienced a society that judged me by either appearance or my mistakes. In a city where I knew nobody, with no resources I could call on, scared, lost, sick, tired, and having lost everything I owned. But I wasn't angry, and I had no expectations of the universe or of my higher power. I had briefly experienced the darkest of feelings, abandonment, loss, hopelessness, and despair. I had glimpsed what a person returning to a judgmental society fears most, and experiences all too often. If I can empathize with, then I can help heal. My journey has more to learn, but I feel from a spiritual perspective, I have hopefully gone through the worst of the pain associated with this lesson. I am disabled and I owned my house, and my best friend, Thor, and I could have just isolated to ourselves, and I could have spent the rest of my life in hiding, just being, except for my greatest fear. What if I die, and standing before Hecate, she asked me, why did you ignore the souls who needed you? I sent you to each other to heal and grow. And so I share this part of my journey with you, the world, not for attention. I am slightly embarrassed about my relapse, but because maybe my experience can spark compassion, hope, or understanding for someone else. So they can take away my empire of dirt that I am building at any time, because in the end, it's not what's important to me. It's the faith that I strengthen that really matters. Blessed be everyone. Robert Aaron.